is the name of our show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Large Glass. I'm Todd.
I'm Terri.
And this is our weekly show where we bring you a new artist to talk to and talk about. And we're excited to be here. How's everybody going? How's everybody doing? I'm like a mess tonight.
Well, how are you going? That's cool,
How
too.
are you going? It's been a long day, people.
Yes.
Let's see. Who's here? Who's here?
It's filling up. So we have Joseph Barbaccio. He says
TNT.
And Pumpkin Audrey's here. Hi, all.
Hi, Audrey. Ben Hagenbush is here. John Park, Jess Park. Good to see all of you guys. Business as usual.
Yes.
Let's see. We have some things we've got to talk about.
We have a couple things.
We have to drink.
Yeah.
We have a great artist tonight.
We do.
So
Episode 83.
You looked at me as if you weren't quite sure. We're getting up there in numbers. So, as we approach episode 100, we're probably just going to lose track. So our audience members can help us out by keeping track of what number episode we're on and correcting us. I are going well. Thank you, Joseph. Hi, Mom. Thanks for coming to our show. So what are some things we got to talk about before we get into our artist tonight?
Well, we have the pin winner from last week's contest.
For those of you who don't know about our contest, follow us on Instagram. It's _large glass on Instagram. If you're there, Terri does a great job of curating that. And every Thursday, she puts up a fragment of a painting and has you guess the artist. If you guess the artist, you win one of our awesome pins that we're currently featuring right now. So there's David Backus. Hi,
Hello,
David.
Dave.
Nice to see you.
Yes.
So you definitely want to get on there for Thursdays. Who won?
Who won? So I posted a detail from Jane Fine's painting, and Mike Rader won the pin.
Mike Rader currently has about 12 pounds of our pins.
Yes, he's on it.
He's on it. He's really good at that.
He's very good at that,
If he's not guessing it, Glenn Lavertue's guessing
Yes.
it, or Tom McGlynn
Yes.
is guessing it.
And Pam Glick gets it.
Oh, and
quite a
Pam
few
Glick gets
times,
it a lot.
too.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
So definitely get on there, win one of our pins, and cool. What else? What else we got?
That was the one thing. We also have a big birthday coming up tomorrow that I have to mention. Happy birthday to Alan Wexler.
Alan Wexler, birthday tomorrow. I have to say, ever since Alan has been both coming on the show, watching the show, and Ellen has been watching the show, we love having you both here. But happy birthday, Alan.
Happy birthday.
Maybe if you're in the city on Friday, we could grab a coffee together. And I have to say that to me, there's a birthday even bigger than that coming up. Okay? Alan, you're a big birthday. But for my own personal sort of observations, there's one that's just a little bit bigger than that one, and that's this one. Terri's birthday is on Thursday, March 31st. You're going to have a birthday, so I hope everybody can wish her a happy birthday at some point. Jump on social media or jump in now.
Thank you very much.
So, angel dust, not angel dust, fairy dust. Angel dust. Why not? Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Make me stop talking. Let's pour some alcohol.
Let's pour some alcohol.
Oh, so tell us about tonight's wine.
Oh, so tonight's wine.
Let's go to Wine Cam.
I stumbled upon it. I was actually talking to our artist before the show and telling her how we came upon it as well. So I was in the wine store about a week or two ago, and I was really into 19 Crimes, which is a fantastic brand, but they feature criminals on their
And why not?
on their labels, and then you can look them up. So they had Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart, and it's actually really good wine.
Yeah.
But I had purchased those, and then I came across this rosé. And if you know Hampton Water, it's actually run by Jesse Bon Jovi, who is the son of John Bon Jovi, and also one other individual named Gerard Bertrand. And they own Hampton Water, and they produce rosé. And it's supposed to be really good. So I thought this was a nice summery drink. Our artist we featured prior to the show back on our 1-year anniversary show. And it was a summer theme, so I thought this'll work.
Well, and I got to tell you, if you know Jessica Brilli's paintings, You can't deny that this label is one of the most perfect labels that you could put on a bottle of wine that we're drinking tonight.
Yes.
This swimmer diving in. I'm just going to, can I have that wine opener over there, please? Because I'm going to
Absolutely.
struggle with this thing all night long.
Know which part you want.
So I'm excited about this. And I think that a nice rosé kicks off the summer vibe beautifully. All we need now is a nice salad niçoise.
Ooh.
And we could be French. Sorry, Carolyn, if you're out there listening to me. I know you're out. Oh, 63 is here.
Hey.
And Jess Park loves that label. Yeah, us
Yes.
too. What is up with this?
One good king is here. Happy birthday, Terry. Thank you. Thank you. Jess says happy birthday too.
Yeah, we got a lot.
Marcellus. Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Joseph Barbaccia says, Happy Angel Dust Day, Terry. Oh, wait, should we go with a little ASMR?
Oh, we should.
All right, ASMR time. Get your headphones out. Here we go.
Yes,
If you have your headphones left over from last week when we did John Roach, you're going to love this. Here we go.
That sounds nice.
Love that. There we go.
Yes, thank you so much.
Let me turn my blasting mic down now. I'm so immersed. Marcellus is like, wow, I'm in the bottle of wine. All right, so
pretty.
here is to episode 83.
83.
We are rapidly approaching 100.
Yes.
That comes off, what, in July?
In July. The last week of July will be our 100th episode.
Oh, Joseph Barbaccia is drinking a red blend himself.
Very
Perfect.
nice.
Cheers to all of you.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming. Let us know what you're drinking in the chat. Let's give this a shot.
Ooh. I like that. You know, and I'm a hard sell on rosé.
I'm going to just sit back and wait.
Very hard sell.
I'm going to sit back and let this happen. The floor is yours.
This is really good. It doesn't have that stingy kind of, I'm not going to say that other wine it reminds me of. This is really good. It's got a nice soft finish.
Can I just say something? I used to teach in Paris in the summer sometimes, and
Ooh,
I will tell you, we always enjoyed a nice rosé in July with a salad
This
for
is
lunch.
really
and I've been
good.
telling Terry this, and she automatically associates any rosé with a lowbrow wine, and it's not. It is a standard. It's a summer standard. This is
This is yummy.
Yes.
Hampton Water's a win. I like it.
63 says cheers. He's got the Boda Old Vines in. I got to tell you, those Boda wines.
Ooh.
I know what you're drinking. That's good. Whispering Angel is the way to go. I believe I had that one once. But anyway, this is good. Highly recommended.
Good. Highly recommend.
John, if you're watching the show, pick us up. Give us
Yeah.
a sponsor. And in the name of support, actually, while you're all here, if you're watching tonight and you have not followed us on either Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, please hit that like button, follow, comment on this thing, visit the channel at a later date to maybe watch some older episodes. Help us out. Spread the word. We're hoping that we're doing a good thing here. We feel like we are. And we can certainly use that word of mouth to spread that around. So we'd appreciate that. Okay.
Okay.
Do we have any other business? We do. We've got 100 in Art Tour.
We have 100 in Art Tour. That is coming up on April 30th and May 1st. Couple more weeks away. Also, Whittemore, who's one of our partners, they're doing a lot of stuff with the 100 in Art Tour as well. So be sure to check them out at whittemoreccc.org. They have a kickoff this spring coming up on April 23rd with a Spring Garden concert featuring Cat Moon Daddy. And then on the weekend of the 100 in Art Tour on April 30th, they have an opening reception. So be sure to check that out.
You guys who are local to the area, if you haven't been out to Whittemore for one of the concerts, they're fantastic. They do a really nice job. It's a pleasant setting. You sit around outside in the, in the lush green, and they do a really good job of scheduling their musicians. Now, right down the road, there's a really nice restaurant called the Tewksbury Inn. You can grab a bite on the patio, head over to Whittemore, and listen to some music. It's a great time.
Yes, Tewksbury Inn, that's where Tini Duchamp and Marcel Duchamp
Were
in love.
introduced.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a landmark. So if you go there or you're planning on going to the Tewksbury Inn on your way over to Whittemore to see a show, let us know. Maybe we could join you there. I actually had our very own Jim Osman was out here for lunch one day, and we went out there to have a bite to eat in the very room where Tini Duchamp and well, I should say Teeny and Marcel Duchamp met. And I was explaining this story to him. And the only other person in the room is there was one other gentleman over in the corner who was absolutely listening to every word we were saying. You could tell he was fixated on us. We felt like we were being watched. And he is another local artist who understands the story, and he's a Duchamp scholar. And he heard this story and he says, I can't believe someone's sitting here telling this story. And he came over and sat down with us and then ate lunch with us. But It's a great story. It's a great piece of history. And for those of you that are connected to, the world of fine art, it's something local in Hunterdon County. So definitely go over there and check it out. Eat in the bar, best place. Yeah, that is the Tukes. And then I saw something else from Joseph Barbaccia. You got to try Verdicchio by Brunori. All right, we got to make a list of these.
We do. We do. Then maybe we can have some contests where we draw something for the following week and drink it on the show.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe we get our viewers to vote us in. One Good King is back. And welcome back, One Good King. Thank you for all of those subs. One Good King just gifted all those subs to everybody out there. So Marsolis, Jess Park, Joseph Barbaccia, Jamie Foster, and Mike Rader all just got subs. Awesome. Welcome back, One Good King. You're the best. Okay. We got to get going on this artist tonight.
We do. Yes.
So would you like to start us off on a little introduction?
I would love to start. She's one of my favorite contemporary painters, so I am so excited that she's going to be joining us tonight. Last September, we first introduced you to our featured artist on episode 56 of The Large Glass. It was our one-year anniversary show. Since it was the end of summer, it was actually a compilation show where we showed 3 different artists with summer themes. We had Derek Adams, we had Ken Rush, and then we had her. So Jessica Brilli. If you read this week's newsletter, I spoke about how I first became acquainted with her work through Instagram. She currently resides in the Boston area. She has a BFA from the University of Rhode Island and a certificate in graphic design from Massachusetts College of Art and Design. And she's been featured in numerous solo and group exhibitions. She has also appeared in publications both nationally and internationally. And just this past year, Jessica was named the 2021 Pollock Krasner Foundation grantee. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so thrilled to present to you one of my favorite contemporary artists. Please welcome Jessica Brilli.
Hi, Jess.
Hey.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show. Terri, I mean, I'm thrilled too, of course, but Terry's like over the moon.
Yeah, over the moon. Yeah.
Excited to be here.
Excellent. So, let's see. You like to always lead us off on our opening questions.
We do. So we are very well acquainted with your work. We know what it is that you do, but not all of our audience members know. So what we ask you to do is to describe your work in a general sense and just tell us what it is that you do.
All right. I'm a painter, and I create paintings that are inspired by vintage photography, 35 millimeter slides, snapshots, things like that. That's basically the gist of it.
Gotcha. And you can definitely pick up on that immediately just by looking at the image we have up right now. So how do you come by them? Like where do you grab up all these photos from?
A lot of them come from eBay. I buy a lot of them there.
Like boxes.
But also yard sales, antique shops, anywhere I can find them.
Gotcha. So all of you out there in our audience, you might remember seeing this little snippet that we did on the 1-year anniversary show. And we do have more images this time, which is nice. Back then, I think we only talked about 4. So we've got a whole lineup to show you tonight with a lot of variety in it. Wait a minute. So 63 says, so I bought her only available study today. Thanks for posting her website. 63, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
That is awesome. So we've got a little connecting thing going on here. So we're bringing all the powers of the universe together.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So there it is. Okay. I was like, wait, how did she know he was Bill?
Like, because she saw the, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. So let's see. So Jess, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pop through images, and rather than just talk about each individual piece necessarily, we're going to kind of get a quick overview of some of these images, and of course we'll land on a few and talk about them. But I will just kind of do that. So what do you got for us? I love these. Here's our wine bottle happening.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I hate to make that reference. It's kind of stupid, but I do think that there's a kind of an uncanny resemblance there.
Kind of perfect.
I know.
So you do look at the vintage photos, but you do seem to gravitate towards certain themes. Like I'm seeing a lot of pools. I'm seeing some, like swimmers. I'm seeing a lot of old Buick Skylarks and stuff like that. Are you looking for something in particular when you're I guess buying the pictures and then
Yeah. I mean, I think there are several subjects that I kind of gravitate toward. So I'm always looking for, people in pools, any kind of pool photo, vintage cars. I love photos of old developments and neighborhoods, things like that. Aerial shots of neighborhoods. So I just kind of look around and I look through thousands of slides until I find one that I really like or one that resonates with me.
This, when I start to think about, I'm thinking a lot about the reverse of what we're talking about. So it's sort of like, yes, we talk about the fact that you go and grab up these photos and you're inspired by them, and then we see a resulting painting from them. But then I look at a painting like this and I try to imagine there being a photograph that has such an incredible moment caught in it. This, to me, this subject matter in this painting seems to be much more the material of a painter, in that there is this, look at the way the upper body flies over the lower body, and it creates this beautiful downward composition. And it's sort of like, it's just almost too perfect to be a photo on some level, right? So I'm interested in that. I'm interested in this notion of these like idealized settings, right? Both
I think the
compositionally.
photo itself was not that perfect. So that's something that I do is, I manipulate the photos once I have them.
Oh, good.
Sometimes I'll paint them just as they are when I buy them, but other times there can be distractions in the background. So I'll take things out to just clean it up.
Yeah, definitely.
And to draw the eye to the subject matter.
So were both of these people diving at the same time in this?
They were, yeah.
Wow, that is so incredible. And I love this idea, this kind of like, there's almost, what is the word I'm looking for? There is a utopian feel to this, as there is with a lot of, there's like this very sort of hyper idealization, but then underneath it, in some of them, there's something else, and I'm still trying to put my finger on that. But I like how there's this underlying American condition that no longer is current. It's kind of interesting to me. Let's keep rolling here so we can see some other ones. Were you no?
no.
I thought you were lining up to say something. I love this one.
Yeah. I also love in the portraits that you do. Like we know this person, but we don't know this person. And I think that's one of the most alluring things about your paintings. There's something relatable and yet so distant.
Well, I'm gonna throw a suggestion out there, Jess, and I'm not sure if this is the case, but do you find you get a more connected reaction depending on the age of the person? Because, for example, in this picture, I know the texture of that woven fabric on that chair.
Yes.
I know the smell of that pool. I know the way that concrete feels when it's just freshly wet with the water from the pool and the smells of all those things combined. I also know that there is probably a yellowing to this photo in reality that seems a little morphed now through your choices in paint that feels more real. Right, because I lived during this time period, but it might seem surreal to someone who didn't live during this time period. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So do you find that younger people might not resonate with the photos in the way that somebody who lived during that period might?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe not in the same way, but they usually can connect in some way. Maybe not in the sense that they've been there and lived through it, but maybe through family photos that they've looked at, they can connect with it, or just stories from family members or friends. And I think we still have chairs like that around, like who doesn't have one of those chairs in their shed? So I feel like that's kind of the type of thing that induces happy memories for people, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And there's a cleanliness to the aluminum on the bars of the chair that doesn't currently exist on anyone's, because they're usually scaled.
Yeah, no, they're all rusty now.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, they're starting to deteriorate. There's a couple of comments coming into the chat we should probably read just so you can respond.
Yep. So John, wondering, is Eggleston figures in your influences or preferences?
Wondering
Maybe influences?
Yeah, I think so. Wondering if Eggleston figures into your influences or preferences.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah. I love his work.
Yeah, definitely. And then 63 is saying a lot of Eric Fischl here, which is definitely another reference that we could certainly make. Joseph Barbaccia says, perhaps simplifying an image sets it into an amorphous time period. And that's the other thing, is I feel like your simplification of these shapes, the textures on the houses, the backgrounds.
There's a little bit of anonymity with the faces and stuff like that too. To me, that's a simplification in identity.
Yeah, for sure. But there's also something about the overall not flattening, but detexturalizing, simplifying. It does. What did Barbaccia say on that one? He was just basically saying
simplifying an image.
An amorphous time period.
Yeah. Which
might make them more relatable across those gen. Maybe that's why I might not be hitting the mark with that comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Ben Hagenbush says less is more, solid and simplistic. 63 says, the old guys with you, man. Yeah, well, I think that's just a reference to us recognizing this time period. Color and tone are more contemporary from Joseph Barbaccia. So yeah, there's some stuff coming in. Let's keep pumping away at this, because there's some other really...
So can you, because this is such a specific direction with your artwork, can you recall when you started moving in this direction? Like when you first started becoming an artist, like did you gravitate towards a theme, or did something strike your influence and you just resonated with this particular aesthetic and you moved towards that? Like I'm curious to see how you got here.
I think I've always been a fan of this aesthetic, but I always, just having gone to art school, I was always told that you shouldn't use other people's photos to create your work with. You should use your own photography. So I did that for a long time, but I wasn't really able to photograph the subject matter that I wanted to paint. Like I just couldn't, it wasn't out in the world or around me. So I just started looking for vintage photos and kind of fell in love with that idea of just kind of looking for these gems and rescuing them and kind of bringing them back out into the world.
And I have a question. Do you keep the photos too? Like, do you amass a collection and and keep going back to it?
Story time. Here we go.
All right, here, so many.
Oh my God. Look at
that. I'll find some for you.
Beautiful.
Got some slides over here. Let's see.
While you're looking through those, I wonder what the mentality is behind saying you shouldn't make paintings from other people's photos. I wonder why that becomes an issue. To me, there's more of a problem to solve with someone else's photo. I think that's at least a deeper nut to crack than there might be with your own photo. It feels too much like it's all in your hands, right?
Right. I think it might be kind of an old-fashioned point of view where they think, certain teachers and artists think that everything that you're creating should come from you. Yeah. But I just disagree. I think you can be inspired by other people's work and twist it and get another take on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One Good King says, I adore old slides. This is the mythical America we miss, but very, very few ever experience. There's so much under the surface. And that is exactly, One Good King is really good at saying what I'm trying to say. So thanks for that, because that's what I was kind of thinking before. And I'm also curious on that comment, how these paintings, when you're making them and you're sort of extracting from these photos that or someone else's photo, how do these things play into memory? Because there's bits and pieces that seem to be missing. Like the simplification is kind of like a thing that's taken away. And oftentimes when I think about a memory from a childhood, there are fragments, but not the whole. So does that play into your thinking when you're working on these?
Not really, no, but I like what you're saying, but I wasn't really thinking of it in that way. I just wanted to remove distractions or, objects that just didn't need to be there. Like if there was a telephone pole in the slide, why would I add that? I just think it would be a distraction away from the house and the Thunderbird or the car. I forget if it's a Thunderbird or not.
That one is a Chevy. I think that's
my grandmother had that car, which is why I painted it.
Well, there's a memory right there.
Right.
See, but that's a really great connection. I love that. My grandmother actually had a mid-century modern house very similar to this, with that same peak in the roof, almost the same exact profile on the outside with the concrete around the side of the house. There's so many similarities here. So I feel like on some level we all can find a distant connection here. It's
Exactly.
like One Good King said. Let's see what else we got. 63 says, like Tebow and Diebenkorn.
Yes.
Let's see. Also lots of Hockney. I love this work, Jessica. Cheers. That's from One Good King. Mike Rader Potato Head says, maybe not the America we miss, but the one that never truly happened.
The very idealized.
I'm pinning that comment right to the screen. That one's going to be up on the screen right there because I think that's really appropriate. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about Hockney. How does Hockney play into what you do? Do you look at his work?
I love his work, but I think people say that because of the pool thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that's about. I don't really know if it goes much deeper than that.
Yeah, that's true, because he does a lot of other, he dabbles in a lot of other realms that I don't feel would, if that's all the Hockney we knew, we wouldn't compare him to you.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say that Diebenkorn and Tebow were more influential to me than Hockney.
Yeah. Yeah, the Diebenkorn especially, because and I know for some of you out there, we're making a lot of references to artists that we're not necessarily putting up on the screen. So apologies for that. Maybe we could work that into the blog post when you...
You probably could. And actually, even when I was looking at your work, I feel like there is a canon that we can fall back to that you see in here. Like, I even see some filmography, like the Wes Anderson connection. I feel that anyway, especially with the palette and the way that the compositions are set up. And also a little bit of isolation from Edward Hopper. So I'm seeing like quite a few references that that are relatable here. Is there anybody in particular that you look at and who you feel was a major influence on the direction that you take?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, Tebow and Diebenkorn are really big influences of mine. And then other artists, I like to look at the work of my friends and contemporary artists. There's so many great painters and artists on Instagram that you can just, I have a couple of friends like Max Seckel and Christopher Burke is a great painter. I'm influenced by the people whose work I see every day.
As a matter of fact, there's a lot of comments coming in right now that are referencing other artists that everybody's curious to know, like if you're looking at some of these people. So 63 is wondering if you know Jennifer Bartlett. Do you know Jennifer Bartlett?
I know the name, but I can't bring the work.
And let's see, Fred Hayes is here over on YouTube. Nice to see you, Fred. Thanks for coming. We're actually going to be having Fred Hayes on the show down the road, so be prepared for that. That's going to be a great show. He's asking about Robert Bechtel.
Yeah. I like his work.
So, and then let's see, and then there's some agreement about the pools. So, okay, I got to say something about this painting that I'm just absolutely in love with. And I was really looking forward to getting this slide up here. And I think what this does is it helps to sort of flesh out why the simplification in these paintings is sort of, it's not just about removing distraction. I think it's, at least for what I'm seeing, is it's also pushing something a little bit further into a kind of realism. The water in this pool has a tangible, like palpable depth to it. It really has a feeling that there is a space there, a physical depth-like space. And I think it partially has to do with the fact that you handle the various variegation of light on the surface of the water loosely, and it contrasts so nicely with that tight, crisp line that borders the pool, as well as that really simplified chair form. For me, this painting sings to me. I love this piece. Plus, I also like how the figures maintain a kind of light abstraction, whereas the edges of the architecture are perfectly crisp. What goes towards that decision making for you? Like, why is the architecture so perfect and the figures are a little less so?
I think anything that's man-made, I like to make it really sharp. And then anything that's organic, I like to paint it a little bit looser.
Yeah, that makes total
That
sense.
does
So
make
let's go
total
over
sense.
here to man-made again. I mean, look at that. I mean, look at the reflection in the side
reflection
of
in
the
the side of the
car.
car.
There's just something that I think with that simplification, it heightens what is absolutely needed to a level that is exquisite. It's beautiful. Oh, Carolyn Thau loves this painting. Carolyn, you can pick up her paintings. You can go to her website. Let's put her website up on the screen. We can do that. We have that technology. We can add that. So we have the website. Where is it? Why isn't it working? Push the button. There's the button. jbrilli.com. You can go over there, and I know that Jess has some available paintings on there, so you can browse through those. Jess, you have a show coming up, don't you?
I do, yes, in California, Santa Monica, at Skidmore Contemporary Fine Art, and it opens June 18th.
Nice. Congratulations on that. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Let's see. Oh, my mother says this was my grandmother's Cadillac. Wow, see?
Cool. Yeah, I hear that kind of thing a lot. And I mean, that's what I love about doing these paintings is the connections that people make.
Oh boy. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was gonna let's just talk about the painting for a second too. So the medium that you typically work in, it's acrylic on board. Is that typically what you?
I use acrylic and oil
Okay.
on both, usually wood panel or canvas.
Okay. And do you work from sketches? I know that on your website, if you're lucky enough, you can score a sketch like 63 did.
Damn you, 63.
Yes. But that seems to be a generalized like painterly sketch, and then you
Yes,
have the
yeah.
more fine paintings. But do you sketch things out prior to painting them, or what's that
Yeah.
process like?
Sometimes, not everything, but once in a while, if I have an image and I'm just not sure how it's going to work out, I'll do a sketch of it just to kind of figure out the color and the composition before I move to, a large canvas. And, I don't want to waste a lot of time on a big painting if it's not going to work.
Right. How often do you find yourself struggling with the decayed orange tone of some of these photos and the color palette that you choose, which seems to be right on the money?
Kodachrome, I love
I
it.
mean, if something's too orange, I usually just kind of stay away from it. But you can also, in Photoshop, you can auto tone and
Yeah.
it'll fix it.
Yeah.
So there are ways to get it back to the way it looked originally.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's actually a beautiful, magical kind of, like technological miracle of the world that we can like take that and flip it right back to its original state. But I think the paintings also, I feel like I feel like you're still probably making a certain number of decisions in these that push them just a little bit. There's a certain saturation to these in certain spots. Let me see if I
But
can.
even in like this, I love this one. Like, look at the side of that building. It is so flat where the sun hits it. And then right when the shadow is, you see like all these intricacies that you would never notice. Like with the siding right there, you could see the shadows in there and everything. So it's just so beautiful, that attention to detail.
Yeah. And on that note, I've got a comment or a question from Joseph Barbacci that I'm going to pin up on the screen. But he says, does Jessica believe there is any difference between simple graphic illustration and fine art? If so, what is it? Whoa.
Ooh,
Yeah. Bam.
whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's probably not. I mean, it's all art.
I'm with you on that. As a matter of fact, I'm in the one class that I'm teaching right now. It has to do with illustration, and we talk about that division on occasion. It is all art. I feel like the only difference between illustration and fine art is that illustration directly tries to answer no, I should say illustration tries to visually represent an idea directly, whereas this work, or any other fine art for that matter, the thing that's being represented is more malleable or a little bit more subjective. Let's see. Mike Rader says, does the warmth of color come from the slide patina or a choice for effect? And I think we kind of stumbled through that. But like this one, for example, which might better apply to that question.
Well, yeah, with this one, I mean, it was totally, the photo was so red. And I thought it would be fun to paint it just as it was instead of trying to correct it at all. So that's just like the way this really super pink photo looked. And I had never done a painting like that where I just kind of did the monotone, duotone look. So
Right.
that was fun.
There's something about that patina that exists in the photo that sort of, I don't know, isolates it or positions it in a context of history.
Completely.
Right. And I think
Yeah, I think I try to get as close as possible to the color in the actual image, but sometimes I do enhance it, just to brighten it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I make choices, to do things like that.
Yeah. Let's see. We got a little Guggenheim action going on here with a Volkswagen, two
that.
Volkswagens in the image.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm curious, oftentimes when we meet artists and we look at the work that they do, I can often draw connections between their art and their life. How much of this world that we're experiencing and what's going on here, the things that you gravitate towards, would you say leaks into your day-to-day life? Like, how much does Jess kind of connect with that world and maybe even emulate that world in her own setting?
I think day to day, probably not so much.
Okay.
A lot of the subject matter is influenced by things I've done as a child, like a lot of the pool images, that's just, I think, directly from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I every summer would be swimming in pools at friends' houses. And yeah, I mean, day to day, I guess the only thing I would say is that I do drive a vintage car sometimes. So that's one way
Oh, wait,
I kind of
What do you
What is
stay in
it?
that
What is
world.
it? What is it? We have to know.
It's an old BMW, an 84 BMW,
Which model?
a 533.
Oh man, that's got that nicely rounded trunk. I was hoping you'd say a 2002, and I don't mean the year, I mean the model.
Don't have one of those,
Oh my
but
God. But that's a beautiful car. And I love that, I have to say, something about the vintage car tells me a lot, because there is like, so we have a vintage car also, and I've had a number of this type of vintage car in my life, and there is something about the smell and the patina inside of, say, the seats, and that I think applies to the overall connection a painter has.
Yeah.
In that, not just to the imagery, but to the materials, to the viscosity.
Well, there's a sensuality to it.
The sensuality.
Yeah, and even the radio, like the radio's all jacked up and from the 80s. Like we have an 87
87.
Volkswagen Vanagon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and there's the smell of the gas and the
You can
Yeah.
smell the gas.
vinyl and that radio that you have to turn, and there's the seats are, I think there's a cigarette burn in the back one, but there's just all these connections that you find,
Yeah.
and I feel that with your paintings too, like, and I think I even wrote about that. Like, I feel like, when you're sifting through these old photographs, you can smell those chemicals and you can feel that
Hmm.
film on your finger when I look at those paintings, all of that comes to me.
Hmm.
Like all of those sensations that you feel when you're looking at the images.
I think
Right.
I think that's partly what does it in these paintings too, is there is, like if I look at this piece right now with this beautiful station wagon, or if we back up just a couple to say this one again, there's this notion of the image fragmented. Like, I love how things crop and cut off in these. And this goes back to my notion of memory to some degree, but especially in this one, the cropping, the what's lacking in the image is also interesting in terms of what's
Hmm.
not there. And then we start talking about vintage cars and that notion of things like smell, memory, immersiveness, all
Hmm.
those things that transport us back to
Mm-hmm.
that time period. And, like, yeah, I'm old enough to know what a new car felt like in 1987. But like 63 said, I had a 1966 Beetle. I'm definitely not old enough for that. But would I want one? Sure. And would it transport me back to a place that I don't necessarily connect with? A kind of nostalgia that I don't deserve?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's an interesting thing. Nostalgia that we don't deserve. We want
Mm-hmm.
it. We want it. There's a history to it, but do we deserve that? Like, are we making an appropriation of a time period? Are we appropriating a time that we don't belong to?
Kind of choosing your own nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like
Yeah.
that. Like, I think we're okay with that, but it's an interesting thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
One Good King says, "Do you experience sense of empathy?"
Emphatic connection with the original photographer. You're both recording a story, and I wonder if there's a point in your process where it maybe dovetails.
All right, I'm
Let's
throwing that
pin
one
that
up. We're
one.
pinning that one so people can see that.
I'm gonna read that again.
Okay. Do you experience
You experience sense of
sense?
emphatic connection with the original photographer. You're both recording a story, and I wonder if there's a point in your process where it maybe dovetails. So you feel like you have this convergence with the photographer.
Photographer.
Not that much, really. I mean, I do, but there isn't a specific point in the process that I feel like it
Yeah.
dovetails. Um,
Yeah,
I think it's just at the moment when I choose the image, I think,
Yeah.
and one good king's correcting himself. He meant empathic,
Okay.
and that actually, yeah, that makes
That
that
makes
makes perfect
sense.
sense, right? So
Well, I can see like the intention's different. The person snapping the photograph is probably there to preserve a moment that they're connected with. They know the person, they know the car, that's their grandma's house or whatever. And
right,
you're looking at it in a different sense. You're looking at it more in the beauty and portraying art and maybe some affinity with that image,
right.
like you understand it, but it's probably a different intention.
yeah,
Hmm.
and John Park made a really great comment before about the lighting in the pieces, but he says the handling of the light in all of these strikes me the most at my core. It creates a very specific feeling in me. Hard to describe, but I am sure you know what it is. It's that fall light kind of feeling.
Mm,
It's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
It's so
I
good.
think that's maybe where the slight sense of melancholy comes from too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just the light though. Like say in this example here, I mean it is and it isn't, right? But look at her against that gray background. It
Mm-hmm.
takes that sort of moment and just, lowers it a little bit, right? It's like a fun moment, but then there's that gray background and it's like,
Mm,
huh,
yeah.
let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling. These are so great.
Mike Rader, Potato Head. Interesting comment about the original photo. What about a conflation of a moment?
Ah, a conflation of a
Have a
moment.
moment.
Hmm.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Come on, Mike. Clarify. We need some clarification. A conflation of a moment. I'm imagining that moment probably is something to do with you and the painting and the photo, kind of having some kind of struggle or something along those lines. But we'll see what he says. He's probably like, no.
He's probably typing something
He's typing right now. He's like, no, Todd, that's not at all what I mean.
A couple minutes.
Not what I said.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like when you're in the studio working, right? Like what does a typical day look like for you when you know, he says, yes, Todd, not struggle, but okay. So yeah, like do those things come together maybe on a different level? The photo, the painting, the connection between the two.
Yeah, I think just me making the choice to use that photo and to create a painting from that image. I think that's probably where that happens.
The Rashomon effect, he says. He says Rashomon effect. What were you going to say?
Well, you were saying, so one thing we do like to find out about our artists is like, what's a typical day like you? Like, do you get up? Do you hit the studio right away? Do you turn on certain music? Do you drink something?
I do, yeah. So if I'm going to my studio that's in my house, I just get up in the morning. I'll have some coffee and then kind of lounge around until about 9 o'clock, and then I go into the studio and I start working. But if I go to my studio that's maybe it's about 10 miles away, I kind of have the same morning routine. I get up, I head to the studio, kind of figure out a plan for the day, make a list of things I need to do, and just paint. And it just goes by really quickly. So,
okay. Do you work on multiple paintings at the same time, or are you someone who?
I do. Yeah, I have about like several paintings going on at one time. I've thought about maybe not doing it that way anymore because it gets a little bit overwhelming when I'm coming to the end of all of them, like when I'm about to finish all these paintings, but none of them are actually done. It feels, I get a little stressed out.
Can you oh, I'm sorry, you're not done yet. Keep going.
I'm done now.
Oh, shoot.
I'm done because you said that.
Oh, man.
I'll have some Pepsi.
This is an ad for Pepsi.
Yes.
I was just going to ask, just in terms of the overall size of these and where they fall, like what's our scale? Like how do we experience these?
So the one you have up now, I think that was about 24 by 24 inches. And the smallest painting I've done, I mean, I'll do like a 9 by 12 study. And the biggest ones are 48 by 72.
Oh, okay.
Well, I have some new work in the studio that'll be part of my upcoming show. And I have 3 really large pieces that are 48 by 72.
Nice. Oh, yeah, that's great, especially given the, like I'm looking at the one that's on the screen right now, and I'm not going to make the presumption that this is a 6-foot painting, but if it were, or a painting like this were that large, I like that kind of immersive quality of something like that. I'm curious about one thing. I've got this slide in here, which very similarly looks like.
Is that now? Yeah, go ahead. Were you going to say if that's a sketch?
I was wondering if that was a sketch or a study of this one, or how they're related.
Sorry, my cat is distracting me.
That's okay. So this one.
Yes.
Was this an initial sketch for the second one, or the earlier image?
Yeah, it's just an earlier version of the painting, and it's much smaller. I think that one was maybe when was that? 20 by 24, maybe something like that. And the larger one, the other one that you had on screen is 48 by 60. So I wanted to do a much larger version of it, and I painted them, 4 or 5 years apart, which is why they kind of look a little different in style.
Gotcha. Okay, let's keep going. Oh my God, I freaking love this piece. That green triangle that's sticking out on the front of that house to me just sits so beautifully in this. I mean, I love your cat, first of all, because it's right behind you. And
Yeah.
but I love this sort of geometric abstraction that's sort of automatic in these mid-century homes that are also kind of minimalized because of some of your
Hmm.
decisions. Um, I like that you give us just enough to bring us into this recognizable thing, but you also hold back just enough to not become too fastidious with detail. You're kind of between these two worlds. You really do perfect that kind of abstraction a little bit, with shape. Like
Mm.
shape stands out to me in
Hmm.
all of these. Like how do you feel about that? Like is that something that you actively think about? Because and I'll just throw one more comment in there. If I look at something like this
Well, the
is different
architecture
than
really
this.
produces
Hmm.
those. Yeah.
But how do you feel about that? Just in terms of the space between abstraction and realism, and you know,
Yeah, I think it's about finding the images that kind of fit into that small space,
you mean
which
that's
is why I look at so many slides and photos, like at thousands before I choose one that
Hmm.
kind of has the right feeling to it, the right composition. Um, it has all the stuff, and I know it when I see it.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. I feel like you have honed an expertise in just knowing that composition is just right. The way, like for example, just the way this is divided up into four horizontal planes that
Mm.
house plops really nicely in the middle of. And then in a weird complete twist of like spatial relationships, we have something like this where we have this really awkwardly perspective pool that sort of stretches diagonally across the piece, and all these lines running in every direction. So this is a really
Right.
complex.
Well, the perspective is shifted too because we are up high, I think,
Hmm.
like on a diving board, almost looking down,
I hope
which,
the diving board's not there.
no, we're on it, I think.
We are.
I think
We are going to
so.
hit the pavement.
Okay.
I like the bird's eye view of
Yeah.
Yeah,
things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like maybe that's from a balcony or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But I do like the range that you have between something that is incredibly simplistic and almost bleak on some level to something that is much more sort of vibrant and dynamic and complex.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and there's more organic, I think, going on in this composition because that water right there, I think that's one of the reasons why it changes so much. There's a lot of human elements, and then there's the water, and whenever we see those organic elements coming into the painting, we see that.
mm,
Whereas when it's something man made, there's a flattening. But sharp contrast with shadows and structure and light and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of, I mean, that's what I'm getting from it.
yeah. Jess, when someone's looking at your work, like if someone's
I
writing
love
about your
this.
work or looking at your work, what what is something somebody has said or says that makes you feel like they got it or they connected with it or they're really looking or they have or share a sensibility with you about the work? Is there a word or a phrase or an idea that can be expressed that really feels like someone's connecting with this?
Yeah, yes. I feel like I'm going to have a tough time articulating that right now. Not, um, yeah, you can definitely tell when people get it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I feel like your description in the email that you sent out captured a
Oh, and
lot
then
of what I'm trying to do, and I felt like, Terry gets it.
that's all.
I totally get, I love your stuff so much. So.
Yeah, so, it's that sort of thing.
Well, is there, okay, so let me flip that question on its other side then. Is there an approach that some people bring to the work when they're viewing it that's frustrating for you? Is there something that they bring in that feels, I don't know, that you struggle with?
But sometimes, I mean, I don't really there's not any kind of issue with it, but sometimes people will just say, "Oh, I saw this image and it reminded me of your work," and it's just some, kind of generic photos from the 50s, or 60s. And I feel like that's not quite what I'm going for. It's
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not as subtle as what I'm going for, I guess.
Right, right. And I can get that. Like even in something like this that is not subtle, and Mike Rader, by the way, said that composition is nuts. So great.
So great.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that because I feel like you're breathing a certain kind of life into this scene that would not be present in the photograph, right? And that applies to all of these. And whether that's from the simplification or from the complex sort of the way in which you sort of pair that abstraction with the exactitude. Those two things to me are really, breathing a new life into this. So One Good King says there's so much tension at the border of each boundary that's not immediately apparent, as if things are just on the verge of disintegrating, which feels right for the era of these images. Really great. Huh. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Good stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Let's fly down here. I love her. We got to get a little further in.
So when you're in the studio, Jess, do you listen to any particular music? Like, what's the atmosphere like in there?
I love
Yeah, I listen to a lot of music. I listen to audiobooks, a lot of podcasts. I listen to news, I kind of, whatever I'm in the mood for, I
Okay.
listen to.
Do you have a podcast that you go to, like a favorite?
I do. I have a couple of favorites. I've been listening to the podcast My Favorite Murder for a long time, which is it's a good one. What else is there? There's one called Do You Need a Ride, which I like.
What's that about?
It's just about these comedians hanging out in a car with driving around with another comedian and just chatting.
Okay.
It's
Kind
funny.
of feel like you're hanging out with them.
It's funny if there is a common thread that runs through many of the painters we've talked to, it's this one, that the podcast is the go-to thing to listen to in the studio, which I mean, I listen to podcasts also, but I find that interesting that the paintings are sort of being subtly informed by, or at least supplemented by, this very narrative notion rather than something that's rhythmically informed, right? Because I think 20 years ago, any artist in the studio would probably listen to music. 50 years ago, it might have been jazz. It was never disco. But, like there was this idea that there was this rhythmic underpinning to the work, and especially in an expressionistic work, whatever the case may be. But now there's something that's much more narrative driven. I'm not necessarily saying that the paintings pick that up, but I'm just curious how or why that's changed. NPR baby 63 says NPR baby. Joseph Barbaccia says I listened to the past episodes of the large glass.
Thank you.
That is awesome. Thank you for that, Joseph. We appreciate that. I love this. I love the way that house just floats.
These are
in
so beautiful,
that
Jessica.
ochre
I absolutely
field.
love your work.
Look at that ochre field and the way that house just levitates over that car. If you adjust your eyes in this just a little bit when you look, the composition completely, or I should say the landscape just falls apart in this, in the best way. I don't mean that in a negative way, but I love how all of a sudden the house is literally an object floating in the sky over that car. And I don't find that to be a failing of the painting. I find that to be a mystical, really interesting approach to there's some kind of
energy or something. That's interesting because I actually didn't see that until you pointed that out, but there is something happening there when you try to isolate that.
Yeah, did you notice that when you were working on that? Is that something that came up?
Not really, no.
Is that?
But I see it now.
And maybe you're thinking to yourself, earlier you asked me what questions people ask when they're really not connecting with my work, and this is it.
I gotta go.
My deepest apologies. Yeah, but no, I like that. It's almost like a hierarchical kind of symbolic representation of those objects. It's really cool. Let's keep going. There's that green again. Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Joseph Barbaccia says that building seems like a memory, and I think that's actually kind of relating to what I was thinking for sure. Let's see, Jess, what else can we ask you about these? Because there's so many. You know, I often have been bringing up the notion in my classes when I teach of Renaissance painting and how the various compositional elements of Renaissance painting, composition, directional cues, storytelling, sort of unfold in this single narrative image. How does narrative play into these for you? Do you find yourself building stories around what might have happened or what the history might be? Does that play in?
Sometimes, but what I like is for the viewer to do that, which is, I've had a lot of experiences where, if I'm at a show opening, people will tell me the story that's in their head, that the painting
Yeah.
is sort of dictating to them.
Right.
So it's interesting to hear what other people are seeing.
I guess this is actually a good question to kind of end on. But,
To close on.
Yeah, we've talked to artists that, it's more with the abstract work, I think. When viewers come up and they say, oh, I can see this or I can see that, it kind of, I don't want to say it turns them off a little bit, but it affects them when they paint, and sometimes they change their compositions and stuff. But it seems like you appreciate what the viewer brings to the narrative.
Yeah, 99% of the time, I appreciate it.
99. Leaving room for that 1%.
Yes.
No, I think
There's always someone.
I think that's a good question to
that's
close
good.
on. So just some last readings of the comments that are popping in. Let's see. Brilliant insight from One Good King. Joseph Barbaccia says, the building seems like, I read that one already. Let's see. 63 says, what I like is that she's taken me out of comparing her work to others, but left me wondering about her influences.
Yes.
Nice place to be.
It is. Nice mystery.
Yeah, and Joseph
Love that.
Barbaccia has said twice now, because I missed it the first time, but art is about connecting. And I feel like that is something that I really can do in these works. Jess, we were so thrilled that you came on the show tonight.
Yeah, beautiful.
And that you
Thanks for
joined
having
us.
me.
This was such an honor, and we love your
Really
work.
fun.
So for those of you that are out there, please do not forget that if you'd like to look at Jess's work and potentially pick up a piece, you can go to jbrilli.com. Definitely head over to her website and check out what's going on
But
there.
63 bought her last sketch, so
Yeah, but there's other stuff.
there is other stuff.
It
so
is
that's-
available, and you can also follow her on Instagram at Jessica_Brilli_artist. Definitely get in on that. The Instagram is fantastic. It's beautifully curated. There's always good stuff popping up on there, and you can stay in the loop about her upcoming shows. Everybody's throwing kudos at you and talking about great to meet
Thank
you.
you.
So we're going to let you run because we know that your time is valuable. We're going to maybe invite you to a part 2.
Yeah, but thank
at
you
some
so
point.
and thank you so much for
All right.
coming. I'm serious. You're like my favorite painter. So this was like a birthday
Thank you
present
for
to
having me.
so-
I've had a lot of fun, and I will do a part 2. I think that would be fun.
Yeah,
Awesome,
that'd be
Jess.
great.
We would love that.
That'd be great.
All right,
Okay,
well-
and her show is coming up at Skidmore
Yep.
in June,
Yeah.
right, Jess?
In June, yep.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
good luck with that and congratulations. And we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
All right. Take
All
care.
right, take care. All right. So we're going to pop back over here.
Yes.
And let's see. Should we do closing music
we
tonight?
should do closing
love
music
closing
and
music.
closing credits.
Oh, and closing credits. Yeah, let's put our closing credits up.
Yes.
All right. What a show.
I love her.
I know.
So if ever you're wondering, what does Terri love? Jessica Brilli. She's my favorite contemporary artist, so I'm
And Terry's
thrilled.
birthday is Thursday.
Yeah, so if you've got a couple of bucks,
You've got a couple
that
of
was a little
bucks.
tacky, but I love her. So anyway,
And if she hasn't made it clear, never. I won't say it again.
okay.
Let's see.
Let's see.
What do we got coming up in the future?
So next week we have
Ken Rush.
Ken Rush.
And since, we're kind of weirdly celebrating our 1-year anniversary show, which included Derek Adams, it included Jess Brilli, it
Yes.
included Ken Rush. So we got Jess Brilli this week, we got Ken Rush next week, and we reached out to Derek Adams.
I'm gonna keep trying. For
Derek, if you're out there and
too.
you're seeing this, why aren't you answering us? Why? I know why. Because you're huge and you're fantastic, and you probably don't have time for us. But answer us. Come on the show. Come on, man. You round this whole thing out beautifully. This would be perfect. Look up Derek Adams' work.
Aw.
But Ken Rush next week, which we're excited about. And then the week after that, we have Sherry Biddle Raider.
Yep.
So we're excited about that show, too.
Yes.
She's got something going on at the Brownstone, which we're excited to tell you
We're
about.
very excited.
And, the list goes on and on.
Yes, so we're seeing all kinds of goodbyes and thank you.
63 just can't stop gloating about getting that last study. I love that you got that. I think
that's excellent. So good.
Oh, and Carolyn Thau says, P.S. her online paintings are sold out.
Yes.
Well, I will tell you this. Pay attention to that. Visit the site because that's probably partially due to the fact there's a show coming up.
There
right?
is.
And then 2, there'll be drops after that show. You could probably grab something.
And if you stay connected with her Instagram, she does give you a heads up when another sketch becomes available. So follow her and keep checking on her.
Thanks to our mods. Thanks to our supporters.
Yes.
Thanks to all of you for watching. If you're here and you haven't followed us yet on Twitch, please do that. We're going to be doing giveaways soon. We got a lot coming up in the future with some great artists.
And one more plug for this Southampton
this is
water.
nice.
It's really good. So, all right.
All right. Episode 83 in the bag. Everybody have a great night. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, now I got to find my button, right? Good night, everyone.
Good night.
That's not the button. It's not.